My Brother's Best Friend, Part 3, Finale. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. We stayed up late talking to each other about anything and everything. We talked about science, death, politics, music, books, movies, and everything. And soon we knew those facts about each other, and that made things a lot easier for me. We also went out a lot. We went to restaurants, pubs, art galleries, and museums. The experiences brought us so much closer than we initially were, and that was amazing. Soon we had our inside jokes, and we naturally gravitated toward each other. We were still hiding our relationship from everyone else because we had not yet made it official. I felt as if that was the next step, but was not sure if he felt the same way. Making our relationship exclusive was a very serious decision, which would have serious consequences, though it was not to be taken lightly. I was in class on Friday afternoon, waiting for the bell to ring. The professor kept droning on, but I was honestly bored to death. I had already covered the chapter he was focusing on that week, but still I went to class because bunking was against my principles. Suddenly, my phone buzzed with a text. I ignored it because I did not answer texts in class. However, it vibrated 2 more times. I figured that it was urgent, so I made the exception. I smiled when I saw who the text was from. Steven. Hey dear, how's school? Steven. I miss you a lot. I'm lonely. Steven. Anyways, date night tonight? I've got tickets to the carnival. Me. Hey, just waiting for the bell to ring. Then I'll be on my way. I'm so excited. I replied, then put my phone away. Barely a moment later, I heard the bell ringing, signaling for the end of the day. I sprinted out of the class to the parking lot. Steven was waiting for me on his motorbike. I looked around me to see if anyone we knew was around, but the coast was clear. I then proceeded to kiss him hello, then got on the bike. We drove to our apartment, where we proceeded to get ready. I found an outfit laid out for me on my bed. It was black designer jeans with some silver chains along with a white shirt with black stripes down the side. It was simply exquisite. One of the things I liked about him was that he was a very generous person. He was always giving me little gifts, and I found that very cute. Sometimes it would be a bar of chocolate before I went to school. Sometimes it would be one of my favorite books. He was just so full of surprises, and I liked that. For a person who loved anything logical, I sure loved how different and far from logical he was. That was very beautiful and admirable to me. He was not the only giver in the relationship. I loved buying him new pairs of socks nearly every week because his socks were always dirty. I enjoyed cleaning his room for him when he was out for a late night gig and sorting his guitars according to the make and year. I proudly wore the clothes that he had bought for me. It felt nice to be in something he had gotten for me. I went out to the room and found him waiting for me. And I thought I took longer getting ready. I must be rubbing off on you. You look very handsome, by the way, he chuckled, eyes sparkling like diamonds. Why thank you, kind sir. I was dressed by a man with impeccable taste, I smirked, and kissed him softly. I ran my fingers through his hair as I enjoyed the feel of his lips on mine. He was not only an amazing stylist, but he was also good at banter, and I appreciated it so much. Well then, I guess we'd better go. The carnival awaits for no one, he said after pulling away from me. The wanting was still there. I could see it. He looked as if he wanted to cancel our plans and stay at home with me, but he thought better of it. I could not blame him. I was feeling a bit hot and heavy as well. We decided to get going before things got out of hand. We got on his motorbike and we were off. I loved riding his motorbike. It felt relaxing to have the air of rushing past me, full city lights burning into my vision. For those moments we could fly. For those moments we were barely here, not there. But we were with each other and that was all that mattered. We pulled up to a carnival where there were a lot of tents, booths, and rides. The colors, sights, and smells gave me sensory overload. I caught a whiff of candy, hot dogs, and many other delicious snacks. My eyes were assaulted by the sight of so many people in colorful booths. Kids were wearing colorful costumes and adults wore masquerade masks. The air was light and airy with the sounds of laughter and screams of delight. Come on, I believe you must be hungry. We need to feed you, he said, dragging me off to a stall. It was this food truck where a very delicious smell was tickling my nose. There was a line there, but Steven signaled to one of the people working there and they came over. Hey Sans, this is Luca, he said to the guy who he had just called. So this is the famous Luca. I've heard so much about you, he grinned at me, while shaking my hand. Only good things, I presumed, I smiled. Only good things. I'm Steph's bandmate. I play drums, he said. I finally brought him, as I promised. Now where are our burritos, he smirked. To be honest, I did not think Steph would ever be in a relationship. You, my dear friend Luca, must be really special. He winked and left to go and prepare our food. I hope you don't mind that. I told Sans about us. He saw our text and I told him about us. He's very happy for us. I think he's even more excited than I am. He smiled sheepishly. Nah, don't worry about it. I don't mind. He seems like a genuinely good guy, I smiled. I had also liked how Sans had said that we were in a relationship. We had not had the talk, but it felt as if we needed to have it soon. We had basically been together for 2 weeks and we still had not told anyone that we were official. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about something, he started. Yeah, sure, what's up? I asked. At that very moment, Sans returned with our burritos. They looked and smelled appetizing. Thank you very much. We'll see you later, dude, Steph said. We walked away from the food truck, then made our way through the carnival, making small talk. We stopped at this fortune-telling stall and I was told that I would be getting an amazing opportunity in my life soon, and she told him that adventure was on its way. That reminded me that we were living on borrowed time. He was supposed to have left for Los Angeles a month ago, but his record deal had been postponed. I was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop and for him to tell me that he was moving. But for the moment, I would concentrate on the present. I would focus on him and only him. It had been a long time since I felt so alive. It had been a while since someone made me feel so complete, and I was going to savor every moment. Love had found me in the strangest of ways. I was grateful. We spent the rest of the night getting on the most daring rides and eating a lot of candy flosses. The sugar rush I had at the end was very bad. I felt like staying there with him forever, laughing, joking, singing, dancing, and just being alive. We were the only ones who existed in my world. We finally sat down at a booth, exhausted out of our minds. He was looking at me with a strange expression on his face. I raised an eyebrow in question and he just grinned in response. Well then, spit it out, I smiled. He looked down and started tapping his hand on the table. I got worried because he only ever did that when he was nervous. I feared that he was going to break things off with me. Maybe everything had been in my head and he could not commit to me after all. Maybe he had decided to give me one last good day before he ripped the rug beneath my feet. I felt as if I was going to throw up. I wanted to talk to you. About us, he started. Of course, what's wrong? I said, biting my lip. It's just that we've been doing this thing of getting to know each other for a while now. I think I finally understand how I feel about you and how I want us to move forward. But it's up to you as well, he said, barely taking a breath as cryptic words flew out of his mouth. Right, go on please, I said. I could barely look him in the eyes, but forced myself. I like to look at people in the eye whenever it was a serious conversation. What I saw in his eyes instantly cleared up any confusion that I had. I saw one word spelled out in his gaze. Cities have been burned to the ground because of this word. Wars have been fought. People have died. And the impossible has been done because of love. I want you. I do not doubt in my mind or heart that I have fallen in love with you. You have shaken me to the core. You have tamed me and ignited me. I want to be in a proper relationship with you. Will you be my boyfriend? He said, looking at me with eyes filled with love and hope. Being the nerd that I was, I could not help quoting our mutual friend Charles Dickens. You could draw me to fire. You could draw me to water. You could draw me to the gallows. You could draw me to any death. You could draw me to anything that I have most avoided. You could draw me to any exposure or disgrace. This and the confusion of my thoughts. So that I'm fit for nothing is what I mean by you being the ruin of me. I then took his hand. Yes, my love. I love you too, and I want to be your boyfriend, I smiled. He jumped up and did a fist bump into the air. I laughed at his theatrics. He was just too cute for me to resist. He calmed down after a while and came over to my side and tilted my chin upwards. He placed his lips upon mine and breathed new life into me. It was as if it was our first kiss. I did not hear fireworks going off due to our kiss. We were the fireworks. It was as if I was feeling everything all over again. No drug could ever compare to the high you get when you are in love. If anyone says so, then I challenge them to a duel. Now, I understood why cities fell, worlds collided, and the dead came back to life because of love. Now I knew. We pulled away from each other after what seemed like an eternity, then laughed. We laughed to release all the stress and worry over the past few weeks. After a while of sitting and gazing into each other's eyes and being all sappy, we made our way home. I could not wait until we got home. I had so much I wanted to say and do to him, and I could hardly wait. We had barely made it through the front door before we were ripping each other's shirts off. We kissed intensely as we made our way from the kitchen to my bedroom. He threw me on the bed and instantly assaulted my shirtless torso. He kissed my entire torso and got me riled up even more. I tugged at his hair as I could barely contain my emotions. He lightly ran his hands up and down my chest, drawing little shapes on it and looking at me through lust-filled eyes. I did not care much for anything else except for how much I wanted him at that moment. I needed his body right at that moment. I dug my fingers into his back, urging him on. He ground against me and my temperature increased significantly. "Gosh, you're so hot," he whispered into my ear, as I kissed his neck and gave him a few love bites. "I want you too," I whispered. He stopped kissing me and pulled away from me at that moment, and I saw so much desire in his. "Are you sure? I have been craving you for the past few weeks, but I promised myself that I would not touch you until I told you that I loved you," he whispered. "Yes, I have thought long and hard about this. I want you," I beamed. I was both nervous and excited, but I was certain that I wanted him. He got off me and went to fetch a few things that we needed. He came back after a few seconds and started undressing the rest of me. Shivers went down my spine as I thought of what was coming. My skin tingled where he touched me, and my breath caught when he started unzipping his trousers. I saw him in all his majesty, and I loved it. His eyes revealed that he wanted me there and then. "Are you ready?" he asked, amber eyes catching in the light. "Yes," I said breathlessly. Then he took me. This was not my first time being intimate, but this was our first time. Being intimate with someone is not something one should take lightly because it's an exchange of energy. You connect with that person on the deepest level possible. To try and explain what it felt like would be futile. All I know is that every skin cell in my body felt pleasure. Every sensory neuron in my body was activated, and I was completely gone. The sound of our synchronized voices filled the earth as we chanted each other's names like mantras. Every fantasy that I had about him since I liked him came true. Every dark desire came to light, and I loved every second of it. We reached climax and rode out our high together. We collapsed on each other, breathless and buzzing. I still felt my skin tingle and vibrate from the moments after that. "Thank you very much," I whispered onto his chest. "Thank you too, that was the best I have ever had," he whispered, stroking my hair. "Oh really? But you have so much experience." I was very shocked. "Yes, but it feels completely different when it's with someone you love. Trust me. Being intimate usually means satisfying your body's urge, but with someone you love, it's like satisfying your soul too," he said. I understood exactly what he meant. It had felt different with him, and I was glad that I had decided to take that step forward with him. The next morning, we told our loved ones that we were dating. As expected, everyone was a bit shocked, but we got a lot of support. Ryan was the most supportive of them all. He kept on joking that he would one day have to pick between being either of our best men at our wedding. It felt relieving to have everything out in the open. Somehow we had made it. We had not crashed and burned like we were afraid to. We had fallen in love, and our loneliness, we could barely recall it. His record deal became successful a month later, and he moved. We had known that this time would come, so we had already talked and made schedules for calls and visits. A lot of people were against long-distance relationships, and that is understandable. It's not easy to trust your partner when they are miles away from you. It is difficult to long for their hugs when it's cold, but we made it work. When we visited each other, we made sure that we made the most of the time. We went to concerts. I visited the studio, joined him for a few days on tour. And when he visited, he would come to me with my favorite bookshops and historical sites. This was not to say that we did not have our fights. We fought like cats and dogs most of the time, but we did not hesitate to admit when either of us was wrong. We were an odd couple, but our pieces fit together perfectly. What I learned was that you cannot rush love. It has its own time. Sometimes it arrives early, and you have it forever. Sometimes it leaves you when you don't want it to leave. The point is, love has its own time. Each of us out there has a soul that was made just for them, and one day we will meet our person, our constant in this world of broken dreams and chaos. The end. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.